Area, Milwaukee. You are listening to WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM, Nyumba Upendo, House of Love. I am Dr. Alicia Mutri, and I am hosting the show solo, even though Dr. Kwaku is in the house. You know, he's still up in the house. But I'm going to be hosting today by myself. And I'm excited to be here. And, you know, based upon every show, before we speak, we always think about how we get the P&P is what we call it, the prayers and the permission from the elders, for that we have permission and for us to be able to speak truth to the audience. So I had an opportunity to talk to Mama before that. Mom gave us all kind of prayers, and she was just thinking about as she thinks about the show. She said, I want to make sure that what you talk about will be able to bless the audience mentally, physically, spiritually. But then she made me laugh at the end. She says, and I'm praying that your show is interesting today. And I said, well, okay, well, let's keep it real, Mom. I hope that the show is interesting. And I know that it will be. And I know that we've prayed ourselves just about the words that come from us today may be able to bless someone. There's a couple of dedications before we get into the show. I want to be able to dedicate this show to a men of Omega Psi Phi. I know there's a birthday with one of my buddies, Daryl Williams and Cullen Carey. Just wishing you both a happy birthday. Happy birthday. Yes, happy birthday to you. Please linger. Oh, there we go. And then also one of our guests, Simone Kilgore. She just finished with a birthday just recently, and just blessed to see. I'm not even gonna say a number. I could say a number because people wouldn't. They wouldn't. 51. Okay. 51. Where is what I would say. Happy birthday to you, and you are just. She came up in here, slayed that hair. Slayed today. Okay, not that you don't look good every day, but today is just something. That birthday thing, hey, it's blessed. It is. So we're going to be talking with you a little bit later, but again, we're doing the part 2 about domestic violence, so we're going to come back to that. Prior to getting to that, I have the honor of having another guest in the room today. Before I tell you her name, I want to tell you we've been friends since high school. You know, friends since high school. Matter of fact, her daddy taught me how to drive the stick shift. Can you drive a stick shift at all, Jermaine? Hey, her daddy, when we got ready to go to college, so we were college roommates, but when we got ready to go to college, he said, Martin Lou, my name is, don't ask me, that's a whole nother thing on how I got that nickname. But he was like, I need you to be able to drive too, in case they called her Baby Bird then. In case she cannot drive, I know, just telling all the details. But he was like, I need you to be able to know as well how to drive. So he did just that. So we not only were high school friends, we roomed through college. She was my line sister with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And she's here today because not only is she a wife, a mom, but she's very active with our sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And she is the social action co-chair. And there's an event that's about to happen. And I'm like, you know what? I just don't want to talk about it. I want you to come in. I want you to talk about it. But first of all, Kimberly Eubanks, welcome to WNOV 860. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. You know, Alicia then came out, so she know I gotta get her. I just love my pumpkin. She'll know exactly what that means.
I do.
Then also, you guys should have her talk a little bit of Spanish. That's how we became friends. We were in Spanish class, and I would get stuck, and she'll say, she'll whisper in my ear. I'm like, okay, good. This got to be my friend. She know how to speak Spanish.
I don't remember a lick today, but anyway.
So just a little bit about our friendship. But why I'm here today is to talk about the election that's coming up. Our sorority is having Midwest Impact Day of Service, where all of the chapters within our region, on one day, we are going to get together. And so we're all doing service on that day. And what we're going to be doing on the 26th, that's this Saturday, is Your Vote, Your Voice. And we're going to have 2 speakers there. I'm talking about knowing that voting matters, and then also about 2025. A lot of people don't actually understand what that is. So we're going to talk about that. And then also making sure we're going to keep it simple that everybody will know if you're registered to vote. So make sure you're registered to vote. Do you know where to go to vote? We all know that November 5th is election day, but right now early voting has started. So you can know where those locations are. You always can go to the election commission to look that information up where the early voting sites are right now. And then we also want you to know what's on your ballot. And if you want to know where you can go to find what's on your ballot, you can go to myvote.wi.gov. That's GOV. So just know what's on the ballot, because always come prepared. And if you have not, and you realize that you have not registered to vote just yet, you can register to vote on election day. You also can look up what type of material you need to have with you when you go. So we are inviting people to come out on Saturday. And that's going to be at Marquette University, and it's located at their union, which is located at 1442 West Wisconsin Avenue. We're going to be in room 157. Again, that's 157. So come check us out. You'll hear more information about the knowledge of why your vote matters, about Project 2025, and then all those things you need to know to get to the polling place, to get your vote in, and if you need help or what you need to take on election day if you still need to register.
I love it. And so we're talking 13 days away. Is that how many?
Yeah,
I think we counted at 13
13
days away. So you could be doing like a lot of stuff within the sorority, but you chose to really dig into this whole social action and really taking this whole vote stroll to the poll like very seriously. What got you into doing and committing to that work?
You guys, I just think with the sorority, that's one of our programmatic thrusts is social action. And so I got involved when Barack Obama was running for president. And so to have the opportunity to be, we have another minority that's running for president, to see that. And so that's how I got involved. So once I got in back then, I've never stopped. We have our adopted polling site. So I've been a chief inspector. Wow. So for years now, I've been trying to pass the mantle.
Well, wait, I want to stop you there. Talk a little bit about what does that mean when you've been a chief? What did you call it?
Oh, chief inspector,
Talk about that.
From the election commission, they allow certain sites to certain organizations to adopt a polling site.
Okay.
And so our sorority, Delta Sigma Theta sorority, we have adopted a site. And so we're at the Clinton Road Senior Center. Awesome. And so then we're responsible for setting up the booths, scheduling our sorors, they volunteer to work the shifts, and then counting the ballots and things at night, getting everything prepared, take it back. Important. To drop off. So yeah, so on election day, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. But when you're a chief inspector, I start at 6 a.m. and don't leave until probably 9 p.m. or 9:30.
Wow. So, what a commitment. And you're not getting paid to do that, am I right?
No, I'm not getting paid. It is also like a fundraiser as well for our sorority. So it would go to the sorority where we take those dollars and then do things that we can give back to the community.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Real quick, talk about the event just one more time. Like, where is it? What time does it start?
Okay, the event starts at 4:30 p.m. And I don't think
And what's the name of the event?
The name of the event is Voter Empowerment Program that we're having. It says Your Vote, Your Voice. And just to let people know, you can be empowered, educated, and engaged. And we need everyone to participate and be engaged. So please come out on Saturday, October 26th at 4:30 p.m. We're going to be at Marquette University. The address again is 1442 West Wisconsin Avenue. We're going to be in room 157. Again, that's 157. Again, 4:30 at Marquette University, room 157.
Okay, no, I really appreciate that. And so I was thinking about, you were coming in, you were talking about, helping and being a resource for the community to understand the importance of voting, how to go about doing it. And I love the one thing you talked about, like really even like drilling down on what are some of the things that people need when they go to vote, because sometimes we allow certain things to be barriers to say, I'm just not going to do it. Sometimes, maybe I'm embarrassed, or maybe because I should have voted or I didn't. Like, what are maybe some of those pieces that maybe folks can start getting themselves ready now, like things that they should have prepared to be able to take to them?
So if you aren't in the polling book, so we do have voter ID, so you have to bring your ID to the polling place. And if you have to register that day, we're just looking for, you have to prove who you are, so identify yourself, and then where your residence is, because we have you, they have it divided that you're in a ward, so you have to make sure that you're in the right voting place. Right. So what you need to bring with you would be, if you have your ID. So if you got a state ID, your driver's license. You could also bring any government letter that you would have. You can use your utility bill like We Energy, your phone bill, your now that they've added, you can even use your checking account. If you have your paycheck stub, those are some of the things. You cannot just bring any piece of mail, and so those are some of the things that you will have to bring. And also, if I know I didn't list everything, you always can go into the Election Commission, Milwaukee Election Commission on their website, and it will show you a list of things that you can bring.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know in the past they looked for my We Energy bill
Yep.
address to match the address on my state ID or
Exactly.
driver's license.
And that's what we're doing,
Yeah.
verifying your address. So we're verifying where you live and also verifying you are who you say you are.
That's beautiful. I
Yep.
love it. I love it. Before we move into the next piece, I was just curious. Simone Kilgore is in the house as well. Anything connected to when you think about like this whole process of voting? What when you think about this is a mental health show?
Yes.
What connections just pop in your mind right away when you begin to think about voter registration? You begin to think about these events. You begin to think about the people that are running.
Yeah.
What mental health components will just jump out at you when you hear about this topic?
Yeah, mentally, I just think I've been thinking since Kim was speaking. I thought a little bit about Terrence Ray. Shout out to my brother yesterday. I don't know where he was, but somewhere downtown where people were lined up to do early voting.
I saw that
And
too
so
at
all
Good
I
Hope.
could, yes,
Yes,
on
at the
Good Hope.
library.
Yes, that's where he was. Yes.
Okay.
And so I kept thinking, yay for us, right? For coming out, making sure we're registered ahead of time. And it was mostly a sea of brown and black people, right? That were proactive and being really early to this whole thing of getting my vote in and letting my voice be heard. One of the things that I noticed on Brother Terrence Ray's face is he could not stop smiling.
Oh.
He was overwhelmed with joy, and he kept saying, "My people, we doing this, we doing this, we doing this." And it reminded me of when I would walk with my grandmother or my mother at the time to our polling station in my small hometown of Beloit. And on the way home, just felt like we had done something important.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That we had contributed to what was happening in this country in whatever large or small way. Voting is a large way to participate. And I think a lot of people think it's minute or small or not as important. If I don't show up this year, it's important that we show up every year.
Yes,
and
is.
it really does aid and add to our overall health and well-being to know that I was a person that was committed to that I helped to vote this person in the office, and my voice matters because it does. That in itself gives you back that feeling of I've done something well for myself and my people.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It extends not just personally, but
Yeah.
look how I'm
Beyond.
supporting the
Yeah.
community within the world, right? No,
Kids
I
are so happy to do. When you see little kids going to the polling station with their parents and they get to wear the sticker,
I
my
know.
mama let me wear her sticker.
Oh, well, now
So,
they
yeah.
have future voter stickers.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
So the kids get
Don't you
those.
love it?
Yes.
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
like put it in their minds
Sense
early
of
on,
pride.
right?
And it's a
Take them
sense of
with you.
pride.
Take the
Yeah.
kids to the poll
Yeah.
with you. Let them
Yeah.
see you
Yeah.
be able to like exercise a right that you have.
Right.
Right. So doing a little research, I know that, I had you come in here talking a little bit about the voter registration, begin this event that's happening. And then I know we have Simone Kilgore doing domestic violence part 2, because we had her a couple weeks ago, and it was so much information. We're like, oh, we got to have her back. So I was just doing just a little bit of research, and I had thought about this. I'm like, you said how it's important that everyone votes.
Yeah.
Right. And I think about there's so many different circumstances that you have going on, so many things on your plate, so many like positive and or negative things happening in your life. And so I started thinking about connecting this whole voter registration with someone that's possibly even being abused, like people that maybe are somewhere like being protected from an abuser. And what came up on there is just this program called the Address Confidentiality Program. And then it's the Confidential Voter Listing Program. And it's administered by the state. And it enables survivors of domestic violence, and sometimes they're to have a different address. And part of it is so that them being victims of like sexual assault or stalking, that they can vote without the fear of being found by the abuser. And so when I read, just sometimes you don't think about things like, again, you just got to go out and vote. You have to sometimes be able to say, I still have this responsibility. I know I'm dealing with some stress. I know I'm dealing with some horrible things, but I still have an obligation. And And we have a program in place that says to show you how important this really is. Have you any thoughts about that at all?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the program through my support and connection to Sojourner Family Peace Center. Aurora is one of the partners within Sojourner, but I've also worked with several domestic violence survivors who have utilized that program for things not specific to voting, but we do know that voting is one of the reasons why people would say, I don't want the abuser to know my new address or where I'm currently staying in a shelter or whatever. So these addresses are provided to give them a different way of getting their information, their mail, or what if they receive medication through the mail order systems or whatever, so that the abuser cannot find them. And it's a phenomenal program that encourages safety. And it's from a state, federal, it's a program through the state. So the one thing we do is we acknowledge through the state and through state laws and guidelines and programs that survivors need that kind of protection.
And you're exactly right. You know, as a chief inspector, they do train us on different affidavits that you can receive for people that have that, or if someone is homeless, if they're in different
ways
shelters,
they can still vote.
Then they do train you on that, and then in the day of, if you kind of forget, you can always call back to the election commission and they'll walk you through that. So anybody that has that, they can still feel comfortable that you can come to vote. Your chief inspector should be knowledgeable, and they'll come over and they should be able to assist you. And if they get stuck, there's still the election commission that they can call back.
So if I go as a survivor of domestic violence or sexual assault and I want to vote in my ward, but I'm afraid to show up, the chief election person understands this situation and can talk to me a little bit about how to stay protected and vote.
Yes, and sometimes they already have like letters that you with the program that you said. So we're able to accept that.
Awesome, because they do give you a letter to say I'm a person that's protected. My address is not as it seems on this ID, but this is why I need to be protected. And so we can bring that to the polling station.
And then you can do provisional ballots too. They come back and they can do that.
So options for everyone.
There are options for everyone. So there should be no reason anyone should be turned away or any disenfranchisement or anything like that.
Jermaine.
So I got a quick question. So how do you apply for that?
So through the state or through Sojourner Family Peace Center, they have what we call advocates there that do a phenomenal job of connecting you to all those resources. So call Sojourner, their number, get in touch with some of their advocates at that space and say, I'm a survivor of DV. I want to be protected. I want my address protected. And they will walk you through application of that program and how to get you connected.
Now, since the election is 13 days away, what's the time frame?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So
I don't know the time frame, but I'm hoping it's something that could be turned around quickly, right?
Right, and I do know, and I'm going to let you. Someone had a question over here, but you can go also on the National Network to End Domestic Violence online, and they have a whole list of all the current programs available. In addition to understanding like what are the requirements and how long does it take to do that. So, if you are out there and you want to be able to take advantage of this program, we have 13 days, and so I would say don't wait any longer. Let's go on now. Research to figure out exactly how many days it takes, and maybe even during the commercial break I may be able to see if anything comes up on my phone to look for it as well.
Me as well.
That's awesome. So did you have a question over there?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, what if you just didn't want your address disclosed at all?
So the question is just about what if you just don't want your address disclosed at all?
Well, we have to know what ward you're in, because when they look at how they're dividing up, when we talk about when they're drawing the lines of what ward and things that you live in, we have to make sure that you're not overvoting, like how that fake
double vote.
Everybody's trying to vote 50 million at one time. No, they're not. So that's the only reason why you have to identify where you're living at.
Thank you.
I understand that we have to provide our address to vote, but I'm saying as public record, I wouldn't want anybody to look up my address.
So more about the confidentiality of the information once you're voting. Like, so the people that you're working with at the polls, what type of training are we like what type of training is involved so people can feel safe that they're sharing maybe with that group, but they don't do anything else with it?
when you as poll workers, we all go through training, and we have to hold everyone's information confidential. So we would not be sharing that information. We're just trying to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to vote. And so we're not looking at that information, because everything that's in the poll book, even when we have observers come to the polling site, they have to stay a certain amount of feet back that we have where they have to. And then myself and anybody that's a chief, then we regulate that. So we're making sure that everyone's privacy
Information and privacy is protected.
exactly.
Does that answer your question? Pretty good. Well, again, our
I'll
guest,
talk to you
I was going to
offline.
say, she'll talk. There we go. See,
Yes.
that's what I'm talking about. This is a resource that we're talking about. She answers his question. He said, yeah, kind of. But she said, you know what? I'm going to answer your question offline so we can get deeper, because what's important is just to understand, because sometimes we have thoughts in our mind, rather than letting that preventing you from like exercising your right. How wonderful is it to have a resource to be able to go to and ask, and that you volunteer right away. And there was no hesitation. He'd even give her a little pound on that one. I love that. I appreciate that. Before we get, go ahead. What were you
No, I
gonna
was just good because we need everyone to vote, because um we're in social media nowadays. Everybody can look up so easily.
Yeah.
It's not just within that polling book. And the reason why I don't want anybody to be disenfranchised, and how people, they work so hard for us not to vote. So there's the importance to know we need to be voting. And we shouldn't let an address, you ain't gonna live there forever. It's just to stop it. And so we just
You see
when
how
we
she turned around and gave you the sister girl mama look.
you know
She did. I saw
and
it too.
even when we're doing when it's time for the census, that's all trying to allocate where the dollars are going to go in our community.
Yes.
And when we're not counted and they don't know we exist and we're not present, then it's like, oh, there's nobody over there. Yes, it is. And it's a lot that our communities need, and that we need these resources just like everyone else, and we got to be counted, and they got to know we're here.
And that's how we're counted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just bigger than just the address. It's like, how does that voting actually impact some additional components of life?
Absolutely.
Like this money, like the way the money is, like you said, budgeted in particular areas. That's good. That's good information.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I want to make sure before we get ready to go on a break soon, talk about your event just one more time. Kim Eubanks again is in the house talking about the Midwest Impact Service. So tell us a little bit about that project in case people are available on Saturday to be able to go.
Yes, your vote, your voice, voter empowerment program that we're having on October 26th at 4:30 p.m. at Marquette University. The address is 1442 West Wisconsin Avenue, and we're going to be in room 157, and we're going to talk about voter knowledge matters, understanding Project 2025, and then what you need to do and be prepared for Election Day, and then also giving you information on where you can go to early vote as
Awesome. Well, Kimberly Eubanks, I really appreciate you coming in and just sharing your knowledge and sharing your time and commitment to this serious business. We need you to stroll to the poll. Is it time for our break right now? You're listening to Nyumba Upendo, House of Love. We'll be right back after the break. We'll be bringing on Simone Kilgore, doing part 2 of domestic violence, and really, making a connection to what we need to know and understand about domestic violence. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
Now every day ain't gonna be perfect, but it's still
Hey, welcome back. You are listening to Nyumba Upendo, House of Love. And I have been joined by two people. We want to just thank Kim Eubanks for coming in, telling us about the Midwest Impact of Service. You know, again, talking about voter empowerment. Event being held on October 26th at 4:30, Marquette University. Go check it out. And one thing she didn't mention, one of the conversations is going to be with our very own Michelle Bryant here. So she's going to be one of the folks on. Yeah. So check it out. And then I know she's also going to be joined by Paula Pennebaker. So when you get a chance Saturday, please make sure you check it out. It starts at 4:30. So then we talked about this whole voter component, but then we also kind of did a segue into part two of this whole domestic violence component. And we talked a little bit about different programs that can be utilized to protect those that are maybe, hiding from the abuser. And there was a question before we went to break, and they talked a little bit about if in fact someone wants to vote, but they also want to make sure that their location stays protected so that they're not being compromised. You were going to look up some stuff. I think you talked to somebody to talk about like how quick does that
I'm
work?
waiting to get that answer back because I felt like Jermaine asked a really important question specifically and I think the reason that it would really touch me is because survivors need to know times and date and things that are accurately happening. So sometimes working with a survivor who might be working through PTSD symptoms of anxiety, depression, hypervigilance, this worry that sets in when you are always fearful of what's to your left or what's to your right, or if I make this decision, will it upset the abuser? One of the things we know for a fact about domestic violence is that the time where it's most serious and most at this heightened sense of security is when the victim decides to leave. So anytime the victim decides to leave, we work with them really closely, those that do work with survivors of abuse. Advocates all over the nation do a lot of work around safety planning. What does it look like to be ahead of this actual leave date? How do I ensure that my social security card and my birth certificate and maybe a new hidden address, how am I preparing in advance so that when I leave, I don't have to keep going back for my things? When you leave, it needs to be a hard break. You might be leaving that TV you just bought or your dog. And there are programs to help people who have pets. I have to find that information as well. But there are programs that help people that struggle with leaving their cat, their dog, whatever. Or do I have enough income or money to take my children? Can I take all of my children? So there's so many things that go into when you decide to leave, because people say too easily and so frequently. Let me say that again.
Okay.
People on the outside say too easily and too frequently. Why don't they just leave?
Oh my goodness.
And when you're in that situation, leaving is not always an option in that moment if you don't have support. If family and friends have said, I told you to leave 5 years ago, or I told you last week, or I can't help you now because you must like what's going on. Nobody likes to be afraid all day, every day. Nobody likes their spirit to not be settled, to not find peace, to struggle with sleep and work and focus and clarity. Because all of those things happen when you're working with what we call trauma brain, or mind of a survivor of trauma. They have a very hard time at times making decisions that are best for them. So when you have advocates or a counselor or a supportive family member or friend that says, it's not my route, it is yours, and I'm gonna ride with you until you decide to do what it is you need to do. How can I best serve you? Is it important that I keep giving you information about community programming and safety? Do I need to be the person that collects? Me and my friends talk a lot about this show called Reasonable Doubt because it's delicious. Okay.
I've heard about
It's so good. But the sister in this year, in this season 2, I'm not going to tell y'all too much if you have not watched.
Don't do
Reasonable
the spoiler.
Doubt.
Don't do the
I
spoiler.
won't do the spoiler, but she's caught up in a situation, and it's a DV situation that is happening on this show where somebody ends up being harmed and killed, right? And so we talk a little bit about how survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault are also often criminalized for how they protect themselves through this abusive situation. And how courts see them now. And all over the nation, I know Doc and I talked before several times about how courts are now changing their views of survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence because they have to. Victims, survivors oftentimes have to do things to protect themselves that may seem like criminal behavior. But after years and years and years of abuse,
By all
what is it
means
that you
necessary.
do?
Like, well,
At
I
some
got it
point,
right.
this person is going to kill me because they keep telling me. And guess what? I believe them.
Right.
Because when they kick, push, pull out guns, bite, fight, slap, control me, try to dictate my moves, that whole idea, what we talked about at our last show, Dr. Mutri, was about power and control.
Right.
And so if we understand the idea of power and control, then we can understand why any abuser would want to keep a survivor there.
Right.
It's to control.
No, and you're absolutely right. So I want to do. I want to rewind.
Yeah.
Because there may have been someone that wasn't a part of the show 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
where we start and we
Yeah.
did part 1.
Yes.
And so I would love for you to just kind of backtrack and talk about, we're talking about domestic violence. Matter of fact, this is the month of awareness of that. When you think about domestic violence, can you put like can you define it? Can you just talk about what that actually means?
Yes. So domestic violence is, again, we talk a little bit about intimate partner violence at the same time. So I want to kind of umbrella it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's multiple types of violences, but domestic has everything to do with who you live with, who's in the home with you, right? So domestic violence can be between two brothers,
yeah,
or two sisters, or a mom and her daughter, or that kind of thing. It's not always intimate partner,
right?
But in who's domesticated, who's in the home. Intimate partner violence is whoever you are intimate with, and it could be one partner or several.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the things that we're seeing throughout Milwaukee and Milwaukee County are heightened levels of intimate partner violence, where it gets to a place where somebody is arrested maybe, or the police are called out multiple times to that home, or somebody has decided to end the life of the victim and then themselves. So we're also seeing high rates of homicide, suicide, homicide, based on intimate partner violence, domestic violence, right?
Wow.
So domestic violence can happen if I choose to harm my granny. You know, economic violence, financial violence, which if I'm in her bank account stealing and taking things and misrepresenting her by signing her name on things like that. Emotional violence, spiritual violence. So there's a piece of isolation that happens where, oh, it's, I love you, love you, love you. Nobody loves you more than me, baby, 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 baby. I gotta have you. Be careful of that language.
Yes.
Right. Type things. And so situations where people feel or are drawn into a relationship based on this person really needs me, and they only made a mistake a couple of times because they really love me. You know, they cry after. So there's many ways to define it, but to be very clear about the definition of domestic violence, that has everything to do with power and control.
Yes. And
this idea around force or coercion, right? Or threat. If you don't do this, I'm going to ... And I believe you. Some kind of force or coercion. If you loved me, you wouldn't leave me. If you love me, you would forgive me. How could you break up our home? After you violently harmed me, now the responsibility is on me to keep the family together. Not you. You don't have a responsibility to stop striking me, but I have a responsibility. And so it gets you in a mindset, oftentimes, domestic violence or being a survivor of domestic violence, where the responsibility you feel lies on you to be present, to keep the family together, to not get the abuser arrested, to not tarnish the abuser's reputation in the community. Don't let the folks at church know that deacon such and such is whooping on, you know,
mother,
sister such and such, or mother is whooping on deacon. I mean, either way, we try to hide sometimes in between titles and lines and what we believe the community sees in us. But what we really need to be talking about at face value is that domestic violence affects many people of different backgrounds and races and ages and socioeconomic backgrounds. Just because I could be a council person or a pastor or a cheerleading coach or the garbage disposal person, it doesn't matter, because domestic violence affects so many people across this nation and in the world.
Absolutely.
It's a very
And don't forget,
common
you mentioned the
issue.
gender component as well.
And
No,
the
you're
gender
absolutely
component,
right.
both ways, same-sex relationships. Again, I think we mentioned 2 weeks ago the impact that violence is having on our youth has MPS and other school districts calling out to at least Black clinicians that I know, saying we have a problem in the school building. We have youth that are feeling like they should fight each other over relationships and love. So two girls might be fighting because a boy likes one of them, or same-sex relationships in schools where there's violence in locker rooms and after school and before school. True violence where kids are saying, well, I know he or she hit me because they really love me. So that identification and understanding of what is domestic violence, why are we equating this with some kind of love? Who wants that kind of crazy love?
Right.
Where my boyfriend at 14 or 15 is choking me out, where my girlfriend at 15 or 16 is slapping my face, busting my car window, stalking me, whatever. It's time for that to stop.
It is.
And we got to do better at teaching our children that does not equate love or respect or dignity. And in the long run, everybody going to be tired.
Yeah.
And so when you get to your breaking point or point of being tired, something's got to happen.
It's got to happen. And
Something's
so
gotta
I
happen.
love one of the things you just mentioned before, sitting on the outside of it. Sometimes
Yeah.
you go, well, why won't they just leave?
Yeah.
I really am just appreciative of your comments with that.
Yeah.
Just thinking it's not that simple.
Yes.
Like anything that you want to do well, you just don't jump in and just go for it, right? You really do need to plan. You need to seek support. Maybe it's legal counsel, maybe it's financial counsel,
Yes.
but you do need, there's a lot of steps that have to take place
Yes.
prior to. So if you're out there judging because somebody, you know what they're going through,
Yeah.
there's some steps. And I love that you talked about also is maybe your role is not to push and say you need to get up out of there, but
Yeah.
of those steps, what type of research can you do? What
Yeah.
kind of you help
Yeah.
them to put that plan in place so that they may be able to move a little bit quicker?
Yeah,
if
I would
possible.
say if you have a loved one or a friend or family member that you know is saying, I'm ready, right? I'm ready to walk through these steps. Some
But
of the
they have to
things
say, I'm ready.
they
You can't
have-
tell them
I
they ready,
can't be
right?
ready for you can't be ready for me, Doc. You
Right.
can't be ready for me. What you can do is love me and say, whenever you are ready, Simone, I'm gonna be ready with you.
There you go. I love that. Say that one more time.
And whenever you're
Yeah.
ready, I'm gonna be ready with you, right? I believe in the power of prayer. And so I talk a lot about that even on this show because it's safe and y'all
Yes.
my people. But pray
Yeah.
for them.
Yes.
Pray for them and say to them consistently and over and over and over, I value you. I see you. You worthy. You made in God's image and you never alone.
Yes.
And so those kind of reminders to that person who is feeling defeated, deflated, not seen, not important. And guess what? I cannot explain to you the dichotomy of seeing a beautiful person, male or female. I'm talking about beautiful, whose spirit is nasty or broken or confused because everywhere they go, somebody has harmed them. Oftentimes, we find that survivors of domestic violence have either witnessed domestic violence as a child or experienced other violences in their life. So when we meet with folks for the first time as a therapist, we can walk through different scenarios. Sometimes during the intake, we say things like, have you ever experienced violence outside of this situation? Sometimes you see a pause. Some people say no. There's a percentage of folks that say, no, this is the first time ever. But oftentimes, they have experienced it either by watching the cycle of abuse with their parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, community, and or been a child that witnessed and experienced sexual assault, domestic violence, some kind of way. And so it becomes this cycle and this belief of my own self-worth that, hey, this is what love means. And since I've been abused and my mom and them was and my granny and them was.
And it was okay for them, right?
They did,
Right.
and they still together. My papa and my granny still together. They doing their thing. They don't fight no more. So I know one day it'll end. Now, if you want to live your life waiting for it to end, you can. That's your choice. And I love you anyway. But for the most part, I'd love to say to women and men that experience this type of situation, we can stop it today.
If you're ready.
If you're ready. And when you're ready, I'm ready.
I love
Getting
that.
ready means How do I plan an exit? What things do I put in place so I feel safe? Do I find an address that's different, that's not listed anywhere? Do I start giving my best friend my birth certificate and other important documents, is what we call it, the list of important documents? How do I start transferring money from my checking account or my savings account into another account? How do I ensure that I have that? Because we live in paycheck to paycheck at times. Sometimes not. Sometimes we rich, and the money still won't transfer. Right? How do I ensure that I'm going to be okay later? It's not easy to leave, y'all.
It's not.
You my sister, but you ain't going to pay my rent for the next several years.
And can I come stay with you when you take care of me?
You don't want me and the kids coming over there for the next couple of years. So we got So we got to put ourselves in a situation where we say, how can I best help this person while they're getting prepared to leave? And so restraining order is something that Jermaine brought up earlier. They can, at any point, I'm talking to my sister friend Tawana over at Sojourner Family Peace Center. She is the manager of the advocacy program there. And she talked a little bit and helped me a little bit with the safe at home information that we were talking about. But also the restraining order piece has everything to do with going into the courts and saying, I need a restraining order from this person, because you're talking to a commissioner who has to hear your side and the side of the abuser, if the abuser chooses to show up. They have a side to it too. They have a story.
Always two sides to a story, right?
Sides. And so at that point, the commissioner can either grant you or deny you a restraining order. Oftentimes, if police are called to the scene, you get what we call a TRO, temporary restraining order.
Okay. How long does that last?
And it usually lasts, I believe, about 2 to 4 weeks.
Oh, just a couple weeks. Yeah, kind of to continue with that plan,
to
right?
Continue on with the plan, to get you an actual court date, to get you time to get yourself together and be separate, hopefully, from the abuser.
Right.
The temporary restraining order ensures that that person can't come near you while you're preparing to maybe leave, to get yourself settled, to maybe get hospitalization, because at times survivors go into the hospital.
Physical, mental,
mental,
all of
that. Yep. So we have shelters in place that will help aid a survivor after an incident has first happened. We have forensic nurses in town at Sinai that will do evidence collection. If we thinking we're going to go to the DA with this and we want to show proof of bruises and or sexual assault and or strangulation and or petechiae, where your eyes are different and dilated differently, and there's a lot of things going on in your vision where you've lost an ability to breathe due to strangulation or lost control of your body and how it works in that moment. All those things can be evidence towards a case if you decide to move forward with a case,
right,
with the DA's office.
And that's part of that goes back to that
choice.
Yes, choice, but it goes back to that whole planning component as well.
Yes.
You don't want to, I heard you say it a couple of times, you don't want to get this thing started and then have to go back.
Yep.
Do the plan.
Yep.
Work the plan,
set a plan,
but then you've got this temporary restraining order that you said maybe a couple weeks, so you can get your affairs away. How long does the official restraining order?
Well, you can get a restraining order anywhere between 4 years. Well, if they kind of set it for 4, I was just with a young lady in court 3 weeks ago, where the commissioner gave her a 10-year restraining order. So it just depends, but 10 is the
that's probably the
highest.
Max,
That's the max. So anywhere between 4 to 10 years. And so all of the information and evidence you have needs to come to court with you and be submitted before this commissioner, whether it's stalking, whether it's text messages or video messages of this person harming you, whether you have medical documents that prove that, or the judges or the commissioner is able to hear both sides and make this decision based on the evidence.
Right.
But the laws are clear on this power and control, coercion, force, fear.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that too, because again, when you hear domestic violence, right away, you think about like what you talked about, the hitting, the punching, the slapping. It's so much more than that. I would love for you to talk a little bit about just going again, rewinding a little bit what we talked about 2 weeks ago, because there may be someone on that didn't hear. It's more than the hitting, the punching. There's other signs. And so can you talk a little bit about, again, so there may be someone here wondering like, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, because it's more than just the hitting, the punching. What are some of the other signs that folks need to pay attention to that are connected to domestic violence?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think sometimes we talk, and you made me think about just being in session with some of the folks that I work with independently, and that sense of isolation when a partner is saying, you know, why you always hanging with them, or why you always going out, or why you always leaving me? I feel like your place is here at home with me and ours. I feel like a woman's place. I feel like a man's place. I feel like my partner's place, excuse me. It should be at home. And so if you feel a little isolated or guilty for having fun and hanging with friends, if things don't feel balanced for you, if everything is with that partner only, and that's how that partner is happy, and when that partner is not with you, or you return from somewhere and that person is grumpy or angry or upset or irritated or pushes you away from them just because you went out to have fun with your friends, isolation is a key component.
Wow. Well, it's, I mean, you know, every time you come, I think it's you. Every time you come, the time just, the clock just goes really well. We got to take a break already. You're listening to Nyumba Upendo, House of Love, and we'll be back, believe it or not, to close the show out that quick.
Already.
So we're going to get back to some of these signs when we get back, but we'll see you right after the break.
Yes.
Welcome back, Nyumba Upendo, House of Love. We're so excited to have you back. If you were with us before we went to break, we've been talking a little bit about domestic violence, and we have Simone Kilgore with us for a second time. This is part 2, and I'm telling you, we may need a part 3 because I'm telling you, we can't get enough in. But we've been talking about domestic violence. She gave us a definition of it. And then before break, I started talking a little bit about, a lot of times when you think about it, you think about, the hitting, the pushing, the slapping, but it's so much more than that. And we wanted to be able to share. I want you to finish, if you don't mind, sharing like some of those signs of domestic violence.
A couple of other signs to look for too. If you're a friend or family member of a survivor, check and see if they drawn back away from you all. If they ain't been checking in, if they ain't calling regular, if they ain't cracking up, laughing, and if they ain't coming to church on a regular basis or coming to the sorority meetings, it's okay to say, sis, this is my third time calling. I'm going to keep calling. I'm just checking in, and that's okay. You don't have to say anything back to me, bruh, but I got you, and hang up. Okay. That's one thing I want you to know. But generally, outside of isolation, sometimes the abuser can make you feel really guilty about some of the things you're doing. Nothing's right. The way you cook, the way you dress, the way you serve God, the way you pick the kids up from school. I saw you smiling at this or that person. They blame you for everything, but they also oftentimes blame you for them slapping you.
It's your fault.
You made me do it.
Mm-hmm.
You make me angry. You make me feel this way every Thursday. I get so sick of you by the time the weekend comes. Everything is your fault. Okay. Oh, okay. I could go further, but that made me laugh. But anyway,
I saw you. I saw it. You
visualized
something. I saw it.
If you want to find joy, just go find it. Don't blame it on me.
right.
But they also put you down and call you names, call you out of your name, say you silly, you dumb, you incapable, make you really feel like you can't leave. And if I do leave, I won't make it without you because you it.
Nobody else wants that, right?
Type thing. Yeah. Or they always text and calling you to see where you at and tracing your moves and make it angry if you don't answer in a timely manner. I called you, 2 minutes ago and you just not answer. You didn't pick up. I was typing somewhere, working with my supervisor.
I was in the restroom. What about that?
I was in the restroom. It's okay. But if you feel that way, and then you did send me this, Alicia, and it's beautiful. And I just want to read a bottom piece of it. I'm not sure who the author is, so I won't say, but I will say that their words are, sometimes you choose to leave, not because of lack of love towards your person, but because it is your own love that makes you take care of yourself. And so my thing is, for survivors, if you really feel out of touch with how to best love yourself outside of whatever you do to feel pretty on the outside, but you don't feel so pretty on the inside, when you stand in the mirror and you don't make sense to yourself, that's an indication that you need to leave and that it's gone beyond, that it's absolutely changed the way you see yourself, the way you view yourself, and the way you think the world views you. That's what we call trauma mind. A survivor of trauma, multiple traumas over and over and over, it has to not impact just the soul and the body, but your spirit. And when your spirit is impacted, it changes the way that you see yourself. And so you can't see yourself in God's image. You can't see yourself the way your mom and them created for you to see yourself. Your pride, the love of yourself, the way you should carry yourself, your dreams and visions have been cut off. Now is the time, sis, bruh, whoever, however you identify. I'll hold the hope until you can hold it for yourself. But at the same time, hope is always there. And so I just would love to let people know that you can leave. You are not alone. There's always support available. Sojourner Family Peace Center is a resource here in town that I'm going to drop their information really quick. You can call them at 414-933-2722, 414-933-2722 for men, women, those who identify differently. However you identify, there's help available. They have advocacy, support with restraining orders. Aurora Healing and Advocacy Services as well provides that type of support to survivors through forensic care, advocacy to court, and accompaniment with police, and also through a counseling program.
Wow.
Yeah.
You even talk about they help with that whole plan. Again,
the whole safety planning is
plan.
Key.
And they support one with that.
Yes, absolutely. Safety planning is one of the things that, as an advocate in Milwaukee, as a counselor for survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, we do right away.
Wow. Well, I'm telling you, every time you come, it goes so fast. Simone Kilgore, you are a diamond.
Thank you.
And I just enjoy everything that you are about, what you stand for, and how you support our community. If you are dealing with domestic violence, you've been given so many resources today. We hope and we pray. And as she said, we will have the hope until you have it.
Yes.
We hope that you remove yourself from the situation with a plan.
With a plan. And support.
And support.
And
And
support
support. And
is
seek,
here.
and maybe even seek some mental support as well, too, right? So all of these things are here for you. We love you, Milwaukee. You're listening to Nyumba Upendo, House of Love, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
You're listening to WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5.